Ran, what exactly are loyalty programs and incentive systems?
These type of programs are structured programs that actually are ubiquitous now in the marketplace, and you can find them in three major areas of business. One is on the consumer side, so companies running loyalty programs or consumer reward programs that are intended to motivate their consumers to buy more product or engage more, create a relationship and engage more with the company. You find the same types of incentive systems or similar types of incentive systems with some of the same type of principles or structural elements in the Salesforce world, where companies are trying to motivate their salespeople to, for example, sell more product or upsell, cross-sell, sell a different mixture of product. And again, they are programs that have goals to them and incentives, rewards in many cases, most cases non-cash incentives. So in the case of a Salesforce incentive program, this would be beyond comp, beyond their base salary or their commission or bonus, additional programs. I'll describe them in more detail in a few minutes. There's a third world or a third manifestation, if you will, of these incentive programs, and that's in the employee side. They're called oftentimes award and recognition programs, where a company would launch, again, a formal motivational type of reward program with goals and rewards and behaviors that the employees should engage in. For example, more safety, behaving in a more safe way, or greater customer satisfaction, all sorts of metrics that the company is trying to drive their employees to comply with.
Can you describe for us some of the more successful consumer incentive systems?
Great. I think that'll also help us to clarify what these programs are. So That's a great thing to try and answer. So on the consumer side, one of the most well-known types of consumer loyalty programs are the frequent flyer programs, where almost all of us know these programs. You need to accumulate a certain amount of miles, and then you can get free rewards, you can get free flights, or upgrade your status to a higher status of a frequent flyer member. There's credit card programs in the consumer world, where we spend money on our credit card, and then we get points in return. And again, we have different goals to reach different statuses or different rewards that we can redeem our points for. So that's in the consumer side. Actually, there's more, like I said, they're ubiquitous. So you now have more and more consumer loyalty programs outside these more traditional programs of credit cards and frequent flyer programs. We have companies from Columbia Business School that were launched from Columbia Business School that are like Recycle Bank, that is rewarding consumers for recycling. A very similar structure program where you get points for recycling and then you redeem it for rewards. On the Salesforce side, these programs, some of them, they'll be well less known because they're not obviously publicized for the general population, but you have huge companies. These could be insurance companies, these could be software companies that have national programs where if you sell a certain amount of, let's say, insurance, you get points for every type of product of insurance, every policy you sell, and if you get a certain amount of points, you get to the President's Club, or you get to the All-American Club, or whatever the clubs, and you get to travel, and you get rewards, and so on and so forth.
What are some of the characteristics of incentive programs that work versus those that don't work?
Great. That's obviously maybe the most important question. And so you could motivate people to engage in behavior. You want to do that in a cost-effective way. So you want to somehow, if you will, maximize the amount of behavior change that you drive. Customers buying more, or customer referring more customers, or customers recycling more, or people selling more product, subject to or under the constraint of not investing too much money, if you will, in the incentive program. So how do you motivate people while keeping costs down? I would say there's three major maybe answers or aspects to that. One is the type of reward you select, the type of incentive you choose. The second one is creating, fostering a perception of intrinsic motivation in the program. And the third one is using goals. And I'll talk, if you will, about each one very briefly. The types of incentives that we have found, both in academic research, both in scientific research, as well as in work in industry with companies, the type of incentives that motivate people the most are actually non-cash equivalent incentives. So beyond my compensation as a salesperson, or beyond any price discounts or any price comparisons that I may engage in as a consumer, the rewards that people respond to the most, that change people's behavior the most, are what I call hedonic luxuries, rewards that tend to be more pleasurable, like a massage, like a trip to someplace, like some recognition. But rewards are not cash or not cash equivalents, not necessities. And what's very interesting about that finding, if you will, is that oftentimes if you ask consumers or salespeople, what do you want, what reward do you want, they'll say cash. it seems like the rational answer, but actually in our studies, and again in real-world data, we find that people respond more, they change their behavior to these hedonic luxuries, they fulfill a special need, they answer a need for pleasure that oftentimes we feel guilty about spending our own money on. The second issue is fostering a perception of intrinsic motivation. And what I mean by there, very briefly, is obviously you're giving extrinsic rewards for people to engage in behavior. So the salesperson who will sell and reach a certain quota will get a ring, will go to maybe Hawaii for a president's club, or the consumer that will buy more will get a free flight or whatnot. But you don't want these consumers or these salespeople or these employees to perceive themselves engaging in the behavior only because of the extrinsic reward. You want them to feel that whatever the behavior is, it's virtuous. I would want to do it anyway. I would do it anyway, in which case the reward is just a secondary benefit, and actually then I expect less reward, if you will. And so some programs are very amenable to that. If you're rewarding people for recycling, obviously recycling is good, but even if I'm a salesperson, actually selling our company's product is good for the company, is good for myself, and if it's a reasonable product, it's also good for the consumer. So you want to brand and position and communicate the program in a way that actually fosters this intrinsic motivation to engage in the behavior you're rewarding for. The third aspect of very successful programs are programs that make a good use of a goal structure. So the goals for the participant, and there's a whole theory and a lot of research that I and other people have done on that, and industry work as well. How do you use goals? And so we find very interesting results and very interesting behaviors. For example, people, whether they're consumers or salespeople, as they get closer to a goal, they tend to accelerate their behavior. So if I'm buying product, I visit the store more often and I buy more as I'm getting closer to the goal. Or I'm flying more often. If I need to fly 40,000 miles to get this upgrade, I use the airline more and more frequently. If I'm selling product, and it's a result, again, both in the laboratory and outside the laboratory, people sell more and more product. Just their sales go up as they're getting closer to the threshold. So you want to position those thresholds in a very strategic place, such as you would drive some incremental behavior. People would change their behavior above and beyond what they would do otherwise, but the goals should not be too high so they cannot reach them. And another implication is that you want to give people what we call an illusionary goal progress, or some sort of head start, is endow them with some credit, maybe with some points, or some even illusionary advancement towards the goal, so they feel they're already on their way, and they'll be again very motivated to engage in the behavior. The very last thing about, well, there's many things to say about goal behavior, but one thing that's very important for folks who are designing consumer loyalty programs or Salesforce incentive programs is that after a participant, a consumer, a salesperson reaches a goal, redeems a reward, in many cases there's a drop in motivation. And consumers might churn, or salespeople will kind of rest on their laurels for a little while. So you want to have mechanisms or tools in your incentive program that would guard against that and kind of give them another goal immediately afterwards or communicate with them.